Oh, hello. Welcome back, everybody. CorgiXP here, and I am so sorry for the delay in getting this episode out. I've been dealing with some more family stuff, and unfortunately, I have not been feeling well these last few days. And as you can hear, I'm still not feeling too well, but you guys matter to me a whole lot more. This episode, we're going to be getting into some custom dialogues using the use of titles and Tellraws. We're primarily going to stick to Tellraws because you can really make those stand out more. You can do so much with it. And with titles, especially for like cutscenes and stuff like that, they are helpful. But they're only kind of like one-off type, things where Tellraw, again, you can do so much with. So let's go ahead and grab those notebooks, drop that subscribe/like, join our Discord, and let's get on into it. So, when it comes to titles, most of the time a map will use them for cutscenes. So where, like for instance, usually like right above here, you'll see a large, text. You'll see subtitle text, and sometimes when certain actions occur, like right above your action bar, you'll see different, texts as well. So that uses what's called the title. So if you type in /title, you'll see that there's a few different options. So first you have to select the selector of where you want that title to show. So for instance, if you do title at A, that's going to show that title for all players. Most of the time you're going to do that because you want them to be able to see it if they're at a specific, let's say, point in the story. So what you can do is, select them based on, let's say, a tag. So you could do tag, level, 1. So anyone at level 1, or you could probably do, phase, not that, phase 1, and anyone tagged phase 1 will then see that title. So you have to select your selector first. In this case, we're only targeting myself, so we can do at P in this case. There's a few different options for title, as you can see here. There's action bar, so action bar is going to be the text that shows up above your action bar right here. Clear is going to clear any title that you currently have processed. So if you've already run a title in the past, you need to clear it first before you can set up another title. Reset just resets any settings that you set in what's called times, and title times allows you to set up how long a title shows up on your screen. So you have the option of selecting fade in, the amount of stay, and the fade out. So the fade in is the amount of time it takes to actually show up. Stay is the amount of time it actually stays on your screen. And fade out is the amount of time it takes to remove from your screen. So I'll show you that setup very momentarily. And then subtitle is the text underneath that main text or title. And then title is the big, title that you see, in the center of your screen. So let's go ahead and start off first just to show you what it says when you do clear and reset. So if you do clear, again, it's going to clear any title, for that specific person, or at A, which would be for everyone. You can do reset, which will reset the title option. So anything that I've set now in title times has been reset. And now what we can do is reset our times. So times, and as you can see, it has fade in, stay, and fade out. And when you put in an amount, so for example, we can do a 10-second fade in, you'll see how it defaults to 10D, which is 10 days, 10S, which is 10 seconds, or 10T, which is 10 ticks. If you don't signify anything, it'll default to ticks. So let's go ahead and do 10s for 10 seconds. And we can do, let's say, for stay. Actually, you know what? No, let's do 10 ticks just to make it a little bit, faster. For stay, this is where we could actually do 10 seconds. So it stays on your screen for a little bit longer rather than just ticks. So we'll do 10 seconds there. And then for fade out, let's go ahead and do 10 as well. So what this will do is it'll signify to the game, to your specific selector of myself, that we want anytime that we set up a title, a subtitle, it's going to come up with this amount of time. So let's go ahead and do that. So now, as you can see, my display time has been set. So if you want a subtitle to be shown, what I would recommend is setting your subtitle first and then your title, because as soon as you run your title command, then it's going to show the title if you don't set a subtitle first. So what you can do is title, add P, same selector, and we'll do subtitle. And with subtitle, you can do plain text in quotes, or you can use the MBT setup of, color and other formatting such as bold, italic, stuff like that. For this one, we can just keep it blank and we'll just type in your subtitle. And as you can see, nothing showed up because all we're doing is setting up that subtitle for when we run the title command after we set what title we want to show. So /title again, add P, and now title this time. And I'll show you that we can now use this. So we'll do a color of, let's do gold, and we'll set the text to your title. So now what's going to happen is, based on our settings in the times that we did, it's going to take 10 ticks to fade in or show. It'll stay on our screen for 10 seconds and then it'll disappear within the 10 ticks. So let's go ahead and run it. And now you can see your title, your subtitle. It'll take about 10 seconds for it to stay, and then 10 ticks after the 10 seconds, it'll fade out. And there we go. So now anytime else you run title, what's going to happen is, if you don't reset that subtitle, it's only going to show up that title. So for instance, if we do this, see how it only shows your title because we didn't set up a subtitle before that title ran. And since we've already set up the time, your time is always going to be whatever you previously set it to. So anytime you run a new cutscene, you would need to reset your times, and then you would need to reset the subtitle before you run the actual title. And then finally, what you can do is the action bar. So title, add P, and action bar. And again, this is going to show right above your action bar up here. And same thing, we can use the MBT style formatting. So let's go ahead and do a color of green. And let's just put in text of action bar text. And as you can see right there, there's our green action bar text. Super cool. So usually action bar text will happen or show if you have a specific command, such as a teleport. And then the titles and subtitle again will be if you have a cutscene. Really neat. And now, finally, Tellraws. Tellraws, again, are so important because you can really format them how you want, and you can run other commands inside of a Tellraw. So for instance, let's say you come over here, and I'll show you real quick. We set up an armor stand named quest guide, and this kind of command could work. So you're executing as the armor stand named quest guide, so you're going to get an output as quest guide, and you can run say hello. So quest guide is going to say hello, and yeah, that works. Cool, I guess. I mean, it's not the greatest, but it does work. However, with Tellraws, again, you can do so much more with that, and it just feels a lot more immersive if you use a Tellraw, because you can, again, combine them and set it to how you want it to actually, show. So, for instance, let's just do a very basic one. So let's do Tellraw And again, it's going to ask you for the same, selector first, so we can just do add P. And again, you can use the MBT style setup for formatting color and text. Otherwise, you would just use the regular quotes if you want plain text. And let's go ahead and set up, let's make it bold. And for certain formatting, if you're doing like bold, italic, stuff like that, for the second part of that attribute, you don't actually need quotes, because the bold value is what's called a boolean, and that's only going to be true or false rather than actual like text-based or a text-based component. So for bold and other formats, you leave it as true or false without the quotes. We'll do next a color, but color, as you saw earlier when we did like title and stuff, it does use quotes because that's part of the text component, and you're telling it that it's actual text versus a boolean, or like it's a string value. So we'll do yellow, and then finally we can set our text, and let's go ahead and make the text, hello traveler. And as you can see right there, it's bold in hello traveler. And as you can see, there was no username attached to it, because a Tellraw is basically just a plain text output, and it just looks really neat. However, what's nice about Tellraws is you can actually still use selectors in them. So let's go ahead and show you a quick example of what a selector would look like. So Tellraw at P, you still need the MBT setup for this, because we're actually putting in what's called, that selector field. So it's a text component, and anytime you have extra components, such as, formatting, color, text components, you do need this MBT, setup at first. But we can do a regular quotes, for the first text, because we don't have any coloring or formatting that we want to put onto it. What you want to do is, if you have any spaces, you can do this. Otherwise, you could technically like do that, but that's kind of silly. So I would recommend keeping any spaces in your like previous or next specific just text. And now what we can do is run a selector field. So we're going to set selector, and we're going to set that to at P. So at P means it's going to target the closest person who executed it, and that's going to be myself, because I'm the only player currently, active. And then we will do another text component of that. Oh, sorry. It's supposed to be, for this, it's supposed to be, there we go. So when you use a text component out inside of regular, text components, so since welcome back, was its own, separate thing, you need to wrap anything that you have like an extra with in the regular brackets, not the MBT style. So sorry about that. So now we have welcome back. The selector is going to be at P, and then we have, the exclamation point. So what it's going to show is welcome back myself. Really neat. And then finally, let's go ahead and do one more quick example of a Tellraw at P. And again, it starts with the regular brackets, because I'm going to have some extra stuff added to it. Let's do this line uses, just so I can show you like the different types of formatting that, you can use. And as you can see, technically it's okay right now. So if I just ran it like this, it would still run, but that's kind of silly, because I wanted to show you what you can actually, do with it. So let's go ahead and put up our next section, and we'll do color. Let's give it a nice aqua color, and we'll do, text of colors. So basically what this is currently doing is this line uses space, and we're setting it as the text colors, but that color is going to be the color of aqua. And then we'll set up another plain text setup, so and then we can set up another one which has a bunch of different formatting. So we can do, let's do bold and italic, I think. So again, when you first set up bold, it's a Boolean value, so bold would be true, no quotation marks with a true. Let's do italic, and italic excuse me, will be the same thing, so true, no quotation marks. And then we can do our text, so text will be let's just do formats. There we go, perfect. And then finally we can add in, you know, our final text piece, which will be a period to end the sentence. And now what you'll see is this line uses colors and formats. Really, really cool. So now, one other thing that we can do is notice how, remember, these no longer use the actual like name of who actually said anything, because it's pure, you know, text base. What you can do is within our previous message, all you need to do is right here, add in that text field quest giver, like that. So now what it's going to look like is quest giver has actually said that message. So quest guide, quest giver, or same thing. I just messed up on the name. But as you can see, now it kind of looks like that the quest giver or quest guide has said that line. So you just have to put in the name within that Tellraw, which is really cool. So what else can you do with Tellraws? I set up a few things here just to kind of show you. And we'll go over this command real quick first. So what this is Tellraw at P or closest player, which is myself. Color red, text CorgiXP. So as you can see, my name is in here. And hey, want to subscribe to my YouTube channel? This /n/n signifies a line break. So if you use this /n/n, what it means is if I put any other text between here, so let's say, you know, Y or T, that T is going to show underneath the line directly under this first line right here. But I want it to be double lined, so we have a double /n. And then our next line is going to be what's called a hover event. So a hover event is anything extra that you can run in Tellraw. So you can do a hover event, you can do a run command, you can do an open URL. There are so many different options you can use within a Tellraw. And MC Stacker, which is a great website, which I'll link in the description, gives you the ability to set up all your Tellraws that you need. So our hover event, our action is going to show text. The other actions are, again, run a command, open URL, you know, stuff like that. And our value is why not, please. And I'll show you what that shows in a second. And then finally, I put in the text of no, which means would you like to subscribe? You'll hover over no, but I don't know why you wouldn't. And then again, we have the, you know, /n/n for another double space line. And then finally, we have a click event. So the click event is going to open a URL, and that URL is going to be going to the YouTube channel right here. And as you can see, dark red is okay. So the text for that line is going to be okay. So when we run this command, you'll see how it now says, hey, want to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If I hover over no, because we set up that hover event, it's going to say, why not, please? And if you click on OK, you'll get a message that says you want to open up that URL. For safety reasons, Minecraft always does this, so there's no way around getting around this message. So if you click on yes, it'll bring it to them. If you can copy the clipboard so you can do it later, or you can just click on no and that'll close it. Really, really neat. Other things you can do in a Tellraw / click event is running commands. So for this one is going to trigger with our quest guide over here. And let me show you what it does. Is it's going to tell raw 2 at P, which is myself, where would you like quest guide to go? So again, you know, the /n for the double lines. We're going to do a click event, and that action is going to be running a command. And then we set our command to TP type armor stand name equals quest guide, and we have our coordinates for those 2 blocks right there, and our color gold for gold block. We also have another click event action run command. The command is TP armor stand quest guide to another set of coordinates, and then that's going to be dark green for emerald block. So what's going to happen now is when we click on this command, where would you like your quest guide to go, we can now send it to gold block, which it's already on, or we can send it to emerald block. Now the thing is, when you run a command in a command block, same thing is going to happen. You're going to get this message for safety reasons, and as long as you press yes, that command is going to run. And as you can see, our quest guide teleported to the emerald block, and now we can send them back to gold block by clicking on gold block, clicking on yes, and now they went back to the gold block. Really, really neat. So there is technically a way to get around that box. So not this one where it says open URL, but that one where it says, you know, do you want to run this command? And technically the way to do that will be what's called with a trigger. So as you can see right here, a command is called trigger talk set 2. What this means is we're triggering a talk scoreboard, and we're setting the value of that scoreboard to 2. So in order to set this up, what you have to do is /scoreboard objectives add. We've already done it, but it would be talk, and the type instead of dummy or anything else would be what's called trigger. And what this does is it allows you to /trigger or use a /trigger command and set that talk value to anything particular that you would like it to be. And it would set it based on who you're targeting as. So I've already done it. So as you can see, so scoreboard objectives list. As you can see, I already have my talk 1 right there. And what it's going to do is I have this set of, you know, chain commands right here. Is execute as A, so all players with the score of talk equals 1. When you /trigger talk set 1, that's going to set your score unless you're running it as a specific player. So if you do, for example, execute as, you know, armor stand named quest guide trigger, that will set their score to that. However, if you put that execute command inside that other command block where it just has the trigger, you're going to get that command block message or the safety message that we saw earlier, and you're trying to avoid that. So what you would have to do is just set it, you know, to yourself, which is perfectly acceptable. And now what we're doing is we're executing as all players with that score of talk equals 1. So we can set the score to 1, we can set it to 2, we can set it to pretty much anything that you want, you know, in that click event, you know, command. So what's going to happen is if it equals 1, we're going to run a Tellraw to @s. So @s works here because we're executing as all players, so it's going to target that specific player. And we set the text to, this is dialogue 1. Click on dialogue 2. I'll get to that momentarily because I have a different command block, you know, specifically for that. And when you click on dialogue 2, it brings you to the next set, because what will happen is we have a click event of action of run command. That command is going to be trigger talk set 2. So it's going to set our score to 2 if we click on dialog 2. In the next command chain, we now run as all players with the score of 2. Run Tellraw at S. The text is going to be, this is dialog 2. Click on dialog 1 if you want to go back. And then this one just basically reverses that action. So we run another command of trigger. We set it back to 1. And then the text is dialog 1. And then what you always need to do is if you do set up that trigger option, you just have to reset, the score. So here is execute as all players with a score of talk of 1 or greater, because this double period right here means 1 or greater. Then we just have to reset the player. So run scoreboard player reset at S, which is ourselves or any player with that criteria of talk. So we're just resetting their score. One other thing you have to do is if you do set up a trigger scoreboard, is you do need this. So scoreboard players enable all players for talk. Basically what happens is anytime you trigger something, it's going to disable that trigger if you do not have this constantly being enabled. So we just have this in the repeat always active, where it's always re-enabling that talk trigger every time you use it. Otherwise, if you didn't have this and you tried triggering talk a second time, it would give you an error saying you can't trigger it again because you've already triggered it. So in our first command block right here, I'll show you real quick. We are Tellrawing to ourselves. We're dialog selector, just as a quick example. Obviously you would probably set this up under like a timer, a scoreboard timer, stuff like that, where the dialogue is continuous rather than us having to select the next stages. Otherwise, if you do want to, select the next stages, you could select it like this. So dialog selector, our click event is going to be a run command. We're going to trigger talk set 2, and we can click on dialog 1, or we could have another click event of another run command. That command is trigger set talk 2, and that text is going to be dialog 2. So what we can always do is when we run this command, you'll see our dialog selector. So technically we could skip ahead to dialog 2 if we wanted. This is dialog 2. Click on dialog 1 if you want to go back. So if we click on dialog 1, this is dialog 1. Click on dialog 2 if you want the next. Stuff like that. And that runs from this one right here. So you could set this up where if you, let's say, have a quest that you want to provide a player, you could actually do these different triggers. And if you do trigger talk set 1, let's say, you could set that to a click event of yes, where you want to accept the quest. Or you could do trigger talk set 2, and your text could be no, where you want to deny the quest. And then instead of it bringing up the next set of dialogue or the actual quest itself, it just cancels out of that screen. So there's so many things you can do with it. And as you can see, Tellraws and titles are super useful when setting up custom dialogues. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. In our next episode, we're going to be going over how to create a custom boss. And then our last 2 episodes are finally going to be kind of some cleanup information. Episode 9 is going to be more of like a generic, this is how we combine everything together. And as we prepare to transition everything over to our data pack dash, which is really going to be taking everything that we've learned so far and moving forward into a data pack, which honestly is much more preferable because you can take everything that we've done all here and, moving forward, and really combine it into just a plain folder, text-based, very easy to update, change, and it gets rid of the need for all these command blocks. I mean, there's nothing wrong with command blocks, but of course you would have to have like a command block zone, to hide everything, from the player. So data packs, super important. We'll be showing you how to create that. our adventure map creation will be coming up as well. We're going to be creating our own adventure map RPG, so you guys can learn how to do, the quest systems, class systems, quests, and a whole bunch of different, things that you can do, in vanilla to enhance your quality of life. And then we'll do some, one-off episodes here and there. And then another series I actually have in mind is one where you guys can actually request certain things. So if you have a command request, if you have a data pack request, if you have a, map request, we can work on building it together. So again, thank you all so much for your support. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.